Everyone, this is Satya Prakash. Welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video, I'll describe how to work on empty repository and how to initialize it. This is the part 14 of GitHub, and before going through this session, I suggest you please go through my previous video that is on part 13 of GitHub. So in this video, what I will describe is steps to create an empty repository and steps to initialize a Git repository using this repository, how to push the changes to GitHub, and how to add multiple files to staging area using a single command. So first I'll talk about how to create an empty repository. So here we already have learned the steps how to create a new repository in my previous video session, and here I'll create an empty repository in using my GitHub account. So I'll go to my browser here, and what I'll do, I just click here an empty repository. So here I put my empty repository name is Satya empty repo. This is my repository name, and I'll put some description. This is the empty repository. So I put my description here, and I make it as the public repository as of now, and there is some initialize this repository with, and here I have not checked any file, any art section like checkbox. I put it as empty, so this will create an empty repository for me. So I just click here, create a repository. Okay, now you can see here the Satya empty repo is a public repository, but I have not initialized with add a readme file option. And finally I click on the create repository. After successful creation, the interface will be shown like this for empty repository. So if you compare the in my previous video I added one readme file, so this one is not a this was not a empty repository, but here I have created one empty repository without adding any add a readme file or .git ignore or choose a license. So this will create any empty repository for me, and this is the public repository, and the interface will be shown like this. Okay, now what I'll do here, if I'll go to my list of repository, so I click here this profile and profile name, and here you can see in my repository section, this you can see the Satya empty repository is created, and I have description that this is the empty repository. So if I click here, so this is the empty repository interface. Okay, now I'll tell you about very important steps here, how to initialize this empty repository. So there is few commands here you can see here, and this is the command line 1, and here create a new repository on command line, or using the below command push an existing repository from the command line, and third one is import code from another repository. Okay, now what I'll do here, I have created a new directory here in my local directory, that is dev3, and here I have added 3 files. It is called myfile.cs, myfile2.cs, and myfile3.cs. So I'll show the content here. So if I'll edit here myfile.cs, so you can see the content of myfile.cs, and we'll check here the content of myfile2.cs. so this is the myfile2.cs content, and here myfile3.cs, so this is the content of myfile3.cs. so these 3 files I have added my dev3 folder, and this is the new directory. And here what I'll do, the content of these files the same as the content of files which one I have used in my previous video session, that is part 13 of GitHub. So you can check my previous video as mentioned above in my description section. So what I'll do, I want to initialize this Satya empty repo repository in my local using command. So what I'll do here, I'll just right click here and git bash. So this one open the git bash for me, and here I'll type some command here. So for that, what I'll do to initialize this empty repository, that is Satya empty repo. So here what I'll do, I'll use one command called Git initialize init, and here so it will show a message that initialized empty Git repository. So if I'll click enter, we'll check. So you can see that initialized empty Git repository in the path here, what path I have given. So you can see that in my drive, in my this path here, local directory in dev3, you can see one .git folder is created. Okay, so this is the meaning of this message, which one after successful execution of this command, initialize the empty Git repository with this path. So in this path you can after initialized you can get one folder called .git. Okay, so what I'll do now, if I'll check the local directory, and we can see one .git directory here, but before that there is no .git folder right here, only this file, 3 files there. So after creating .git, you can see there's 4 items have been shown here. Okay, now what I'll do, I want to add one readme.md file to dev3 workspace, so using command. So what I'll do, I one command that is hash, and okay, I just echo, and you can use this one right, echo something like this. So I just copy here, and here I'll paste here. So if I'll click enter, so this command, this command will do for me, this will create one readme.md file in my dev3 workspace. So if I'll go here to my dev3 workspace, here you can see that previously the .git was added during initialize command, and the readme.md is recently added in dev3 workspace. Okay, now what I'll do here, I'll check the list of files using git command. So I'll put ls. So you can see that number of files, my file .cs, my file 2.cs, my file 3.cs, and the readme.md, and .git is the file which one cannot be seen because it's the hidden file. So that's why it's not showing here. So more than, and it is showing that is 4 number of files, and readme.md file is recently added here. Okay, next I need to add readme.md to my staging area using git command. So what I'll do to add using my staging area, I'll add one command here, git add and readme.md. So this file I need to add in my staging area. So git add readme.md, and I want to click here enter. Okay, so you can see that it is added to my staging area. Okay, so what I'll do here, that okay, the file will have its original ending in your local, in your working directory. So it has been added to my staging area. So I'll want to check the status of this file. So what I'll do here, git status. So you can see now this readme.md is added to my staging area. That's why it is showing in green highlighted text, and the other files, my file .cs, my file 2.cs, and my file 3.cs, this has been in a red mark, that is on tracked file. That means it's not added to the staging area, and the readme.md, it is changes to be committed. That means it has been added to my staging area. Okay, now I'll just clear my screen here. So what I'll do, that I want to add multiple files at one time to staging area using single command called git add dot. So previously, if I want to any specific file, I want that git add or any file name. So here I want to add all the files using a single command, so git add dot. So we'll check the status here. So after then I want to check the status, so git status here. So we can see that changes to be committed. That means these files has been added to my staging area, no commits yet. Okay, now there is no pending file which will be added to the staging area. So here dot means it is nothing but the current directory, that is dev3. So dot, that means it takes the whole directory, and whatever files available here it will add it to the staging area. So if you'll do specific file, so you can mention git add space file name. Okay, in this way we can add all these multiple files to our staging area. Okay, now what I'll do, I can add multiple files using command like git add that is my file dot cs or my file 2.cs or my file 3.cs. So in this way we can add multiple files using git add instead git add star. So and here git add means git add dot means it has added all the files to staging area, and git add my file .cs, my file 2.cs and my file 3.cs, it means it is added these 3 files to staging area. So if you want to add selective files, then by specifying the file names using git add command, then you use the command as git add file 1, file 2, file 3 up to file n. Okay, so this is the difference between git add dot and git add the file names using space. Okay, now what I'll do, there is another command called git add -- all, so you can use this command as well. And okay, so using this command we can add all files with current directory called .git workspace as shown below. Okay, so here you can see that there's a .git directory here, right? Workspace here. So using this command we can add all files with current directory called .git workspace. Okay, now what I'll do here, I'll tell about difference between commands, that is we have described git add dot and git add file 1, file 2 ... file n, or git add -- all. So git add dot is I just type here for your better understanding. Git add dot, it adds all new files and modified files but not added current directory to staging area. Okay, so here git add file 1, file 2 and file 3. So git add file 1, file 2 ... file n, it adds only these mentioned files with space separation to staging area. And another command is git add -- all. So it adds all files including current directory called .git in dev3 workspace to staging area. So that's the difference between git add dot, git add file 1, file 2 ... file n, or git add -- all. Okay. Then what I'll do here, I will commit those changes or files which has been added to my staging area to my local Git repository using command. So this command is git commit -m, and I'll add some comment here, fast commit. Okay, so I click enter here. Okay, now what I'll do, I'll configure my username, and that's why some using this command here. So what I'll do here, I just remove this one, global git config user.email. so user email, my user email is, you should put your own email to configure your GitHub account. So before commit to the local Git repository or your global repository here. So git config user.email and the email ID I put. Okay, now I copy here and go to my repository. I just clear the screen, and here what I'll do here and click enter. I'll do for the username as well. So user.name, and I'll go to my this one. So this is my user name here. So I go to here and I put here my username. Okay, now I copy here, go to my git and paste here and click enter. Okay, now I can able to execute my command called Git Commit. So I click enter here. Now you can see that I go to my workspace. So we can see that this git commit, it is past commit 4 files has changed, 57 insertions, and create mode for all these files. This different the 100644 for all files, my file.cs, my file2.cs, my file3.cs, and readme.md. So whatever files are available in my local, in my workspace, dev3 workspace, this can be available in staging area as well as my git repository, local git repository here. So the list of files are committed from staging area to local git repository. So you can see here these 4 files. So now so for this committed files, only one commit ID will be generated, but not different commit ID in each file. Okay, so I'll show you this commit number here. Go to .git here and refs, go to refs folder and head section, and in the master file I want to open it as my notepad. So I just click open here and notepad. Okay, now you can see that when version ID or history ID, commit ID has been generated here. Okay, now okay, I'll go to my repository again. So in this way we can commit these files with only one commit, that is only single commit will be generated, but for not different ID for all these different files. This commit ID or I already have made a video, so please go through my GitHub tutorial in my YouTube channel. So you can reach this particular video, that is commit ID, how to generate commit ID, and I have described details about that commit ID in GitHub. So now I need to add GitHub repository URL using command that is called if I'll check here. So I'll use this line of command here, that is git remote add origin https, and this is my GitHub repository URL. So I need to add this GitHub repository URL using command git remote. Whatever I copy here, I just paste here. So using this command we can clone in future. So whatever files or folders available in this repository, we can clone using this GitHub URL. Okay, so I just click enter here. So here you can see that here origin is the GitHub. Okay, now you can see that origin is the alias of GitHub, and https /github.com mohncs github. It is my GitHub username, and it is the satya-empty-report.git. so it is nothing but the GitHub repo URL. So this URL is used for clone purpose, which one I already have described in my previous video. Okay, now what I'll do here, I want to check my GitHub repository using command. So I use one command called git remote -v. So I click enter here. So you can see that this two GitHub repository URL, it is showing us one for fetch, one for push. So this URL is nothing but which one we already have created, GitHub repository URL. So this same repository URL, it is now generated now. So that means it's successfully our GitHub repository URL is available in our GitHub repository, which one we have added using git command. So I need to clear the screen here. Okay, now here what I'll do, I need to push these 4 files from local git to my GitHub repository. Which 4 files? These 4 files I want to add from local git to my GitHub repository using command called git push origin master. So what I'll do here, I want to check one thing. Here you can see I want to just deactivate my internet. So I want to check using my command called git push origin master. Okay, so make sure internet connection is not active now. So git push origin and the master branch, because it is the branch of the name of my GitHub repository, so that's why it's called master branch. So I click enter. No, okay, now what I'll see here, that unable to access this URL, I could not resolve github.com. that means our internet connection is not active. So I got this message when I run that push command using git bash. So this is because push files to GitHub repository is required internet connection to access remote workspace, that is GitHub. So again I'll connect to my internet and I'll check the same command. I execute here. Okay, now I put here git push origin master. So here I'll tell you the details about origin is nothing but the alias of GitHub, and master is nothing but the name of the Git default branch. And when I created a GitHub repository, that is created a default branch called master for my repository. Okay, so after the internet is connected, I am able to push these files. So I just click enter here. So we wait for some time, so that okay, now you can see here, now I am able to push all these files to GitHub repository successfully. My all files has been pushed to my branch, master branch of my GitHub repository, to this URL, which one I already have created one GitHub URL using git command. So using this URL we can clone all the files from this repository, empty repository. Okay, now what I'll do here, I just refresh this my URL here. So I can see one different interface, right? So you can see that mohncs GitHub has some commit, fast commit, which one I've added during commit the command, and all these files has been available here, my file .cs, my file 2.cs, my file 3.cs, and readme.md file. And here you can see that I will right click here. Okay, now I'll check this commit ID here. So on the fast commit, okay, now you can see that in our dev3 workspace or under .git folder, I already have shown you one commit ID, right? So same commit ID has been generated here after push the changes to my GitHub repository. and so this all files has been pushed successfully to my GitHub repository. So in this way, GitHub empty repository can be filled with files after initialization. So here we can see that one commit 4 files has been pushed here, and as per earlier discussion, it should be one commit ID for 4 files instead of 4 different commit ID, right? So here one commit ID for all these files instead 4 different commit ID, right? For all these files has one commit ID, that is this one. Okay, now if I'll so after click on this first commit link, that is commit description message which one has added, and you can get the interface like this, and here you can see there's 4 files content with one commit ID. So what I'll do here, I need to modify one file called my file3.cs by adding one line of code. So I'll go here to my dev3 workspace here and click here my file3.cs, and here I'll add one new line of code. So what I'll add here is, that is public and string, and property name is my name, and we need to mention is get and set type. Okay, so after then what I'll do, method a, so public string my name, and I click save the changes here. Okay, now I can close this notepad. I'll go here, I want to clear the screen. So here I'll check the status of this file, so I'll mention here git status. So you can see that changes not staged for commit, that means my file3.cs with some modified content here. So what I'll do here, I need to add these files to my staging area, so git add, and I want to mention it of my file3.cs and click enter. Now I can check the status here, so you can see that whatever line I have added to my file3.cs has been successfully added to the staging area. That's why it is available on changes to be committed with green color, so that means it is available to my staging area. Okay, now what I'll do here, I'll commit this file to my local Git repository. So what I'll do here, I will add one command called Git Commit and -m, and here I'll do that my name property added in my file3.cs. So this added comment message I have added to my this recent changes. So after adding this, I have click enter. So you can see that 3 insertions and 1 deletion. One deletion, that means I'll show you this line. I have I will give one space here, so that's why it mentioned 1 as 1 deletion and 3 insertions. So that is means this much line. Okay, so after then I'll just close this notepad. So okay, now this commit command is executed successfully. Then I need to push this changes to my GitHub repository from local Git repository to my GitHub repository. So what I'll do here, so git push and origin the alias of GitHub and the master is the branch. So I click enter. Okay, now you can see that my push command is successfully executed to the master branch using this URL. So in my this recent changes has been push to my GitHub repository, and we can clone these changes using this GitHub repository URL. Okay, now what I'll do, I'll check here the commit ID. So .git, and here reference folder and head section, and if I'll click here open with notepad, so we can see that another commit ID has been generated here, right? So here what I'll do, I just refresh these changes. So I refresh this URL of my GitHub repository, and we can see that recent commit changes has been added to my GitHub repository. So you can see that before 2 minutes ago 2 commits, and my file3.cs, my name property added in my file3.cs. So this one is the commit message which one I have added. So okay, now I'll go here, I'll click here this commit message. So here you can see that my name property added in my file3.cs. so after push these changes, we can see that that one my name property has been added here, right? So 3 addition, so that's why you can see that plus symbol is addition, second plus symbol, third plus symbol, and this one the deletion, that is the DOB. I have just means here I have deleted this line, that's the publishing DOB line. I have created another pushed in my this line I transfer to my next line, that's why the previous line has been removed, that's why it is added to the minus symbol, that's why one deletion here. And for this one different commit ID generated like here. So for each commit changes, so different commit ID will be generated. So previously this commit ID were different, and now after changes to this my file3.cs, different commit ID generated here. Okay, now whatever we have checked here in my local directory, that is dev3 workspace, so same commit ID is available in my GitHub repository in after push the changes. So I'll go to my GitHub in my dev3 workspace here. Okay, so here I'll go to my repository. I want to go here. So I have already seen this latest changes of my file3.cs and modified earlier, and here you can see that I already have seen that new commit ID generated with latest changes. Okay, so how to check this latest changes? So you can click here, so go to the another tab, and here 2 commit, right? So previously we have added all these files, 1 commit, and second commit we only push this my file3.cs with new commit message. So recent commit message we will see here. So first commit ID we will see here, and second commit ID we will see here. Okay, in my first commit I already have told you that in first commit my file, these 4 files which has been pushed to my GitHub repository. So my file.cs, my file2.cs, my file3.cs, and readme.md. So at that time of commit, one commit ID generated here 965F5 something like this, and after second commit, that is my file3.cs, we have added one line, that is my name property has been added in my file3.cs. So in that commit we have generated another commit, that is this one, so different from first commit. So this second commit is something fda to like this. Okay, so in this way we can create a new empty repository and initialize this repository. So I'll go to my slide here. So difference between commands git add dot slash git add file1 file2 file n or git add hyphen all. So git add dot means it adds all new files and modified files but not added current directory to staging area. Git add file1 file2 file n, so it adds only these mentioned files with space separation to staging area. So git add hyphen all, that means it adds all files including current directory called .git in dev3 workspace or in your any workspace you have worked there. So in that workspace to staging area. So that is the role of git add hyphen all. This is my YouTube channel. Subscribe and share it to get the up-to-date knowledge on technology. So what we have learned in this video: steps to create an empty repository, steps to initialize a Git repository using Git command in Git bash, using this repository how to push these changes from local Git to GitHub, and how to add multiple files to staging area using single command. So that's it for today guys. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.